Hello creative people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zenaida and this is Fashion with Zenai, a place to inspire fashion lovers, to share my love for fashion and DIY projects. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to sew a loungewear corset top. So without further ado, let's jump right into the tutorial. To create the corset top, you will need these following tools. You can find all these materials in the description box down below. The fabric that I'm going to use is a cotton fabric. It's 70% cotton and 30% polyester, and it's also stretchy. You will need 1 meter of fabric. To create the top, you're going to need a pattern. You can find a digital pattern of this top on my Etsy shop. I will leave the link in the description box. I used pattern size XS. If you're not sure about your measurement, you can find a video on my channel on how to take your own body measurements. The link will be in the description box. The top has 5 pattern pieces, 3 front pieces, and 2 back pieces. For each piece, you're going to add seam allowance. I wrote all the seam allowance on each piece. Place all the pattern pieces on the fabric and cut out the pieces for the main fabric and a lining. On the digital pattern, you can see how many fabric pieces you have to cut for each pattern piece. Now you're going to start with the sewing process. Connect these pattern pieces of the main fabric with each other. Pin the edges. Sew the edges with 1.5 centimeter seam. Connect the back pieces of the main fabric with each other. Pin the edges. Sew the edges with 1.5 centimeter seam. Iron the seams flat for the front and back. Connect the side edges of the front and back together. Pin the side. Sew the side edges with 1.5 centimeter seam. And you repeat the same steps for the lining pieces. On the left of the side edge, you're going to leave an open space of something like 8 centimeter. Then you're going to sew the side edges with 1.5 centimeter seam. You're going to sew this part, leave an open space, and sew the other side edge with 1.5 centimeter seam. This is how it will look like with the open space. You're going to stick a strip of interfacing against the edge of the back for reinforcement when placing the eyelets. The width of the interfacing is 2.5 centimeter and the length is the back length of the pattern. Then you're going to create the channels where you're going to place the boning. First, you're going to overlock the edges of the seam. Before you start with the edges, I recommend first marking the edges where the boning should be placed on the main and lining fabric. These are the edges you need to overlock. I pinned it, so that way I know which edges to overlock. Overlock the outside of these edges. These are the side edges that you don't have to do anything with. And overlock the inner edges of the back. Make sure you iron the seams open and flat. Then you're going to place the lining on top of the main fabric with the good side of the fabric facing each other. You can recognize the lining piece by the open space of the side. Make sure the seams of the main and lining fabric are flat and pointed outwards and against each other. Then you're going to pin the entire outside edges. At the back edge, you're going to sew the edge with 1 centimeter all the way to the armhole. Leave 1 centimeter open space almost at the edge of the arm strap. Then you're going to sew until the armhole. Leave an open space of 1 centimeter. Sew the upper edge with 1 centimeter seam. Leave an open space. Then you continue to sew the neckline. Leave an open space of 1 centimeter. Sew the upper edge with 1 centimeter, leave an open space of 1 centimeter, and then you continue to sew the armhole to the arm strap where you leave 1 centimeter open space as the other strap. And then you continue to pin to the back. For the bottom edge, you're going to start sewing at the bottom edge of the back and stop stitching at the first seam line. Leave 1 centimeter open so you can create a channel later on. Then you continue to sew and you will end the stitch 1 centimeter before the seam line so you can create another channel. Start sewing from the seam line until here, which is 1 centimeter before the seam line. Leave 1 centimeter open, then start sewing at the seam line until here, which is at the seam line. Leave 1 centimeter open space, then continue to sew until the seam line and leave 1 centimeter open space. Then continue sewing and stop here. Leave 1 centimeter open space and continue sewing from the seam line until the end of the bottom edge. I'm going to start sewing from the bottom edge at the back with 1 centimeter. Then you're going to sew the bottom edge with the open space so you can create the channels later on. This is how the sewn outer edges will look like. So for the bottom edge, these are the open space of 1 centimeter so you can create the channels and place the boning. The center bottom edge has to be sewn if you're not using 2 boning for the center. Cut the corners in a triangle. Now you're going to put your hands in the opening of the side and turn the top inside out. I used a pencil to turn the straps inside out and to stick out the corners. Then you're going to press the top flat for a clean look. I have already placed 1 buckle in the 1 centimeter opening of the arm strap, so I'm going to show you how to place it in the strap opening. The buckle has an opening through which you can place the buckle in the 1 centimeter opening of the strap. It was a bit tight, but pushing it through got the buckle in. This is how the buckle will look like on the corset top. Then you will make sure the seam lines of the outside and inside are on top of each other. I pinned exactly on the lines to make sure the seam lines are on top of each other and don't slide out of place. And make sure the seam is flat and open so you can line the seam up together. Then you're going to top stitch exactly on the seam line, except the seam line of the side. These are all the sewn seam lines, and the side seam lines has to stay unsewn. Then you're going to create the channels. Make sure you measure the width of the boning first to know if the channel width of 1 centimeter is wide enough for the boning to fit in. You're going to create 2 channels on the left and right side of the front seam lines and 2 channels at the back. I use a pin as a tool to mark which seam line to stitch. Then you're going to sew the seam lines for the channels. These are all the sewn channels. This is the boning. I didn't use the boning because it didn't fit the channel after I already made the channels, so it's important that you measure the width of the boning before you make the channels. Since I didn't have a smaller boning, I used zip ties since they fit in the channel. Place the zip ties in the channel and cut it to the right length. Then you're going to close the opening of the channels by stitching it by hand. Now you're going to flip the corset top and sew the side opening right along the edge with a sewing machine, or you can stitch it by hand. I'm going to stitch it by hand. Finally, you're going to attach 4 eyelets to the back. Make 4 holes at the back. This is why you need to interface the back of the corset top where you're going to insert the eyelets. The eyelets that I'm going to use comes with a tool. This is the top part of the eyelets. As you can see, the middle part is taller than the bottom of the eyelets. This is the inside of the corset top, which is the lining. Insert the top part of the eyelets through the hole on the outside of the corset top and the bottom of the eyelets on the inside of the corset top. You can see that I already inserted the top part of the eyelets in the hole on the outside of the corset top. This is the bottom part of the eyelets. This is the side that you're going to place on top of the other eyelets. Use the eyelet tool to attach the eyelets to the back of the corset top. Once the eyelets are attached to the back of the corset top, the lace can be placed through the holes of the eyelets. And this is the finished loungewear corset top. It looks so cute and I'm satisfied with the outcome. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video and find it helpful so you can create your own loungewear corset top. If you create one, I would love to see a photo of your creation. You can send me the photo to my email, or you can tag me on Instagram by using the hashtag ZenIDesigns. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share, comment. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and hit the notification bell. I see you guys next time in the next video. Bye bye and have a blessed day.